Hmm?
Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Brachas in the Ois V'Hadar edition, Daf Yud Beis. We left off on Daf Yud Aleph Amid Beis, the last line from the Amid. I just would like to quickly repeat a concept that we have been explaining, and God willing, it's going to work as to what's the meaning that Talmud Yerushalmi is the Torah of light versus Talmud Bavli is the Torah of darkness, as the Zohar writes regarding the Yerushalmi, as the Gemara itself writes, B'negei Talmud Bavli. And why did Rab Zeta have to fast 100 fast days to elevate himself? Fasting is removing yourself from Olam Hazeh. Is that the Yerushalmi begins with the premise that you are living in Atzilus, you're living in a godly place, and you have to go down. And like Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, he went down that amount which was necessary. And that's how we explained, and this is based on many footnotes that the Rebbe wrote to reconcile what we mentioned B'Kitzer yesterday as just as an example. The Alter Rebbe Zegeres HaKodesh Chavav, where there we write that Kabbalah is in Atzilus, and Talmud is in Bria, and Mishnah is in Yetzirah, and the written Torah, the Torah Shebachsav is in Asiyah, which sounds like the written Torah is only in Olam Asiyah. And really, all the Torah is in Atzilus. The Torah is Chachma of Atzilus of the Eibishter. The question is, how far down does it go? And someone who's Teirasei Umunasai, Rab Shimon Bar Yochai, he wanted to be involved less in Olam Hazeh, not because he did not want to affect Birurim. That's the Kavanah. But he was able to affect Birurim in this Olam Hazeh without going all the way down. On one hand, mitzvahs ma'asos he needed to do. On the other hand, if you're going milmaila lamata, that's how it worked. Mishnah l'Rashbi is greater than Chumash, because when you're coming down, Mishnah, you only went down to the world of Yetzirah. Chumash brings you down to Olam Asiyah. It's lower. You don't want to go lower. And when the Gemara said, and on top of Yud Aleph from the base on top, that the Chachamim held that Mikra and Mishnah is the same. Why? Because they are beginning from here. Like we're beginning milmata. We're going milmata lamayla. Both the written Torah and the oral Torah, what does it do? It elevates us. How high away from Olam Hazeh, it's a detail, doesn't matter. And v'chulei, that's how the Gemara reconciled the Mishnah. This is mamash going to flow into what we're going to be learning today. And again, I'm quoting what I read, that divrei chachamim, divrei soifrim, they come from kesed. And that's why taka taryag with the seven the Rabbanon, you have kesed, right? 620, because you need to have the Rabbanon. And the notes tchilas and besoifim, that dafke when you are in the darkness of Olam Hazeh, you somehow touch the highest level. And that is the way Chassidus explains a topic that we're going to learn today. That's the source. That divrei soifrim are chamudin b'divrei Torah. They're chamurim b'divrei Torah. They're chavivin b'divrei Torah. And we're going to see, like that was the Mishnah. We left off yesterday that Rab Tarfon was behaving like Beis Shammai. They told him, if you would have died, you would have been worthy of your own death. Why? Because she'avart al divrei chachamim. And we're going to begin, the Gemara is going to point out, if a person, God forbid, wouldn't have said Shema at all, they would have been violating the mitzvahs aseh. No one will tell them you should have died. If you would have died, it's your fault. But the consequence of violating divrei chachamim is more serious. All of this fits with this concept. Why is it more serious? Because you're disconnecting yourself from the highest source. When you're going milmata lamayla, the goal is to get up. What's the ultimate goal? To get to the level of kesed, to get to the level of soiv. And then, as Chassidus always points out, Chassidus will never be satisfied with you remaining lamayla. Once you reach that high level, then you have to bring it back down. You go into the pardes to bring it back down. But we are beginning over here milmata, and we're going to learn here again about a sugi we had in Eruvin, about the machlekes b'Shammai and b'Hillel, how ultimately there was a baskoil that announced that even though Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, what the halacha has to follow like Besilol, and it's a mamash. It's a very Hasidic daf, and we're going to learn about Birchas HaTorah. Really, the next Mishnah that's going to speak about the brachas before and the brachas afterwards. Why do we have to make the brachas? We're going to learn the Charedim. He quotes from the Gemara Bavli that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Why? Because we didn't make a bracha prior to learning Torah. In other words, once a person is not aware that there is God in the Torah, and that's the kavanah, when we learn Torah is to be mamshech, to be mevarech, then we're missing the whole point. And finally, we'll see how far we can get. The Gemara is going to want to know, why do we have to read the Shema twice a day? Even though it sounds like a nonsensical question, because it's a mitzvah from the Torah. We did learn earlier on in Yerushalmi, we quoted that really there's a machlokes whether reading the Shema is doiraisa or rabbanan. We paskin it's a doiraisa. The question is, are all the parshias midoiraisa? And the Vayomer is connected to another mitzvah, Zecher Litzias Mitzrayim, which is Taka Lamantizkir Shem Seischa Meres Mitzrayim Kol Yemei Chayacha every single day. But we're going to learn how the Aseres Adibris are alluded to in the three portions of Shema, which is really great. I want you to know that in some Sidurim, not in our Siddur, it says on the side of the Shema, at which part, what Dibre. And we're not going to go through all the 10. Let's aim to get through the first 4, and God willing, in the next year, we're going to go through the next 6. Okay, so now we are on Daf Yud Aleph Amid Beis. We are on the last line by the bottom of the Amid in the Oiz V'Hadar edition, Daf Yud Aleph Amid Beis. We learned the Mishnah about how Rab Tarfon, who was Oiver al Divrei Beis, was reprimanded very harshly. Something almost happened. So you don't say, oh, bench goyim. You say, good, it should have happened. And if it would have happened, it would have been your fault. So says the Gemara, Chavraya, the Chachamim. The name of Rabbi Yechanan, right, in Bavli you say Amar, Amru, we keep the word Amar is skipped. But they said that Rabbi Yechanan said, Doidim. What's Doidi? Kol Doidi. Doidim, beloved, are the words of the Soifrim. Another nuance. The Chachamim in the later generations are called Chachamim. Right? Chachamenu, Zichraneim Levracha, Rabbi Seinu, Zichran, right? Chazal, Razal. Earlier on, the Chachamim were called Soifrim. Soifrim doesn't mean scribes. That we learned, I think, in Kedushin. It means that they were the counters. That they were the counters. The written Torah is b'midah, right? Midah v'she'ena midah. Midah means that there's an exact word. You can't add to the word of the Torah. You can't take out a word out of the Torah. The Torah Shabbat Peh is infinite. Is infinite. And the Soifrim, like Ezra, counted exactly Tanakh. He closed the Tanakh. These are in, and those words are out. In other words, the Chachamim, the earlier they were called the ones who knew how to connect Torah Shabbat Peh in the Torah Shabbat. In our words, Dira betachtoinim, the Soiviv in the Mali, infinity of the Oibisha, which is the Torah inside. They knew how to see that. They saw in the written, they saw the oral. They were the ones that can open up a chumash and they can say, this word means that. When we open up a chumash, when we see that word, we understand the Braisa. How did they get from this to that? That's called, they were the counters. They knew how to look in the Tzimtzum and they saw God in it. Anyways, they're called, so Doidim Divrei Soifrim, the words of the Soifrim are, now the words are Li Divrei Torah. Li means not more. Li means it's beloved with. In other words, if you have the words of the Torah and you don't hear what the Soifrim interpreted, what do you have? Nothing. If you have the Divrei Soifrim and you think this is not the words of the Torah, it's also not beloved. It's beloved because the love, the union between the male and the female. The male here is the Eibishter and the female are the Chachamim. That's the beloved, when we unite one with the other. The union of the oral and the written. And then he said, V'chavivin k'divrei Torah. They are as dear as the words of the Torah. What should as dear? As dear means punishment and reward. And as it says, chikev, that the words of your palate goes to the words of the Chachamim. We spoke them, that they are ki yayin hatoiv. What's yayin hatoiv? Yayin hatoiv is the Eibishter's Torah, Yayin shel Torah. Now, that is statement number one. What that did is that it equates the Chachamim with the words of Torah. Now the Gemara says, no, it's more than that. Shimon ben Va, look at these names. B'Shem Rabbi Yechanan, it's more than that. Rabbi Yechanan is something much deeper. That doidim divrei seifrim le divrei Torah. Yeah, the first statement is the same. The love is only when you unite them together. That's love. Love is not in America. I love me. Look in the mirror and say, I love you. No, love is between the king and the queen, between Torah Shabbat and Torah Shabbat Peh. But then he added, the Chavivin Yoisrim Divrei Torah, that the words of the Chachamim are even more dear. And the pasuk is, Ki toiv doidecha miyoyin. Your words are superior to wine. Why? What does that mean? Just these are the words that the Chachamim were Megala Kisra Shal Torah. The Kesed and the Torah that God revealed came from Chachma. Really, it's the Eibishter. The Eibishter is even higher than Kesed. Anoichi. But the Gilui that we were given prior to the Chachamim, the highest we can get in the Torah is to the Chachma of Atzilus. And Yoiser is, we reach Kesed. And now we'll explain, now we'll prove it from our Mishnah. Very good. So what Rabbi David is reminding us that the Rebbe always emphasized that Rashi was called Yena Shal Torah, and it's all connected. Rashi, Dafke, because the Rebbe had his amazing Chiddush, that was the biggest Chiddush of the last few hundred years. The way to learn Chumash Rashi, that Rashi is Leben Chamish Lamikra. Then Chamish Lamikra sounds, simple. To the simple, the simple is from the highest level. The lowest is the highest. B'diuk. Rabbi Ba, which we know as Abba, Rabbi Bar Koyin, b'shem Rabbi Yehuda, or here it's called Yudah Ben Pasi. Teid Alocha, Shechavivin Divrei Seifrim. Even more, meaning the second version, b'shem Rabbi Yechanan, from our Mishnah. Shadei Rab Tarfin, Ilu Loikara. If he wouldn't have read Shema at all, Loihoya Elabase. So what would have been? He would have been violating God's say. We're not saying this in a cynical way. Point is that no one would have told him that you are therefore deserving of physical punishment. No one would have said it there. Even if, God forbid, a Yid misses the me'uvas asher lo yuchal liskoin, Chazal say, one who misses Shema, they don't deserve physical punishment. But he was over al divrei Beis Hillel. He said it. Novas then he didn't say it there. He laid down. Yazoi, this chayev misam. Wow. And indeed, al shem who played its gader, the one who breaches a wall, the Chazals generally, what are their gazetas? It's a wall around the Torah. They make a wall, right? So that's how played its gader means. Whoever violates the rabbinic rule is Yishichenu Nachash. And we don't say that Hapoidet's Torah Yishichenu Nachash. And really, it's much very deep because the snake is the primordial snake. And what's the primordial snake? The violation of a rabbinic. What was the first sin that Chava did? She touched the tree. That was the Geder. And then the snake got her. Tani Rabbi Shmuel. Divrei Torah. You should know Yesh Behem Iser, the Yesh Behem Heter, Yesh Behem Kulin, the Yesh Behem Choymarim. This second statement means, guys, in the Torah, for certain violations, you don't get Malchus. For certain violations, you get Malchus. Certainly, you get Malchus, but you don't get Misa. For other Ravedus, you get Misa. No, it's in the Torah we see that there are different types of punishments, which means that there's different levels of severity on some level. On one hand, the Mishnah Taka says it should be the same. But the fact that the Mishnah says that Yir Be'enecha, Kalim, Kebachamurim, there's something called Kalim, there's something called Chamurim. By Seifrim, we don't see that. Abel Divrei Seifrim, Kulam Chamurim.
So how come the Alter Rebbe B'Sefer HaTanya writes Ve'afilu over al Divrei Sofrim Mikre Rasha, saying Ve'afilu, like the Divrei Sofrim is more lenient.
Words too. That it goes without saying, but we have to say it. That's not the whole picture. What are we saying? We're saying that Divrei Seifrim is more chamer than God's words. If that's all you have, that's blasphemous. Of course, the Torah, the Eibishter is the main player here. When the Chachamim are coming and they're more chamer, we're adding a chiddush. Even it's not. It's one and the other, Yakir. It's never only one. Even though, of course, the Torah is the Torah. The Chachamim, they're making a fence. What is important to you, the house or the fence around the house? Of course, your house. The chiddush here is that there's something in the fence which is greater than the house. Okay. Teidel Hashukein. The Tanim Nan, come on, we learned over there Mishnah and Sanhedrin. That's the dinam of Zakin Mamre. That Oimer ain't tefillin. And imagine. And what is he? If a guy says there's no tefillin, what is he saying? He's saying he's taking away words of Torah. Ironic. Then he's not a Zaken Mamre. He's not a Zaken Mamre. But if a person says, "Ooh, there are 5 portions in the tefillin," chayiv. And by the way, again, another parenthesis, that the Chumash part, the 4 parshiyos is halacha l'Moshe Sinai. And that's what I was saying before, that the words of the Soifrim is exactly that. The words of the Soifrim is they read the words of the Torah. The Torah never said 4. The Torah says the words Toitafos. And they were people so connected to godliness that when they read the word Toitafos, they understood. Tat, fas, different languages. Like when we look at it, we say, how did they get there? They saw it lechatchila. That's the meaning of it. No, you have to have. If a person says you're 5, then you're chayv. Is araya? You see that if you're violating divrei soifrim, the consequence is more severe. Now, yeah.
So what says no filler?
That is akamamri. Malach von them. How get them? Now listen, wait a second. No, the logic externally is very easy. We have to get the chassidus of it. The pnimius. The chassidus is if a person is going to say that what the Oibishter wrote is not to be kept, he won't have an effect in anything. It's not narish. Something that's not written explicit. How do you know those 4 parshas? We have to rely on the chachamim. If you challenge the authority of the chachamim, there's a greater danger. That's bechitzoinius. Bepnimius is this nakuda. It's like mamali and soiv. What do we learn in Chassidus? That soiv is your very life, right? That the bria yesh miyayin is coming from soiv, from kesed, from something beyond. If you cut yourself off from kesed, you lose your life. Then in mamali there are details. Mamali, that's mamali. There's the koyach of re'iyah, the koyach of shmiyah. There's the heart which you need. There's the hand which you don't need as much. Which in mamali there's different madregas. In soiv there's one madrega. And the paradox is that the lowest, who are we? The Chachamim. The Chachamim somehow were Megala, the highest level. This whole theme that the physical world can be a bias to the Oibishter himself. This is what we're learning about. And it doesn't make sense. And like Yakir is saying, on Giluyim, what God has revealed in Atzilus, this world is a world of darkness. We're not saying it's not that way. We're not ignoring the deficiency of this world. We're not speaking about, we know that there's a superiority to God's words over the words of the Chachamim. Of course, the Chiddush is that somehow the inferior is the Keli to something beyond. Bite. Now says the Gemara, Rab Chananya b'rei Rab Ada, b'shem Rab Tanchum, b'Rabbi Chia, Zok Azoi. Again, Chamurim, Divrei Sekenim, b'Divrei Neviim. Neviim, even in the Chachamim themselves, the Neviim are much greater, right? So it's amazing. Why is that? How do we see that the words of the Zakenim are more stringent? Because it says, I'm quoting a pasuk in Micha, it says like this, Al tatifu yatifu. Don't preach, you preachers. Lo yatifu la'elam. Don't preach to these people. Lo yisa kilimois. So they should not be overtaken by shame. Okay. In other words, there was a time that God told the preachers, which are the Nevi'im, enough nevuah. It's bringing shame. It's bringing shame because the people are not listening, because the Nevi'im themselves felt ashamed. They redden, keine hert nicht. Yet, even though there was a time where God stopped nevuah, he told the preacher, stop. Iksiv, atif l'chol yain v'lashecher. I will preach to you to drink wine and liquor, which means that there will always be divrei chachamim, or the people listen ledivrei chachamim more than divrei neviim. The Nevuah we rejected historically. The Nevi'im spoke, we rejected. The words of the Chachamim we listened to. All right, we're learning 3 chapters of Rambam. We're listening to what we were told to do from Chachamim. I'm not saying. What's pshat? So he explains. Navi v'zaken l'mahin doimin l'melech sheshaleach shnei pal matrin shaloi lamedina. King who's sending 2 types of officials, right, to a Medina. Alecha mehem kasav. Regarding one of them, he wrote before. What did he write? If someone who's coming representing me is not going to first show you my signet and and my headgear or my identifying marks, if he will not prove that he is coming on my behalf, the king already told the Bnei HaMedina, Al Taminuloi. But yet, regarding another type, the king had previously written, even if he doesn't have both the signet and this type of headgear, nevertheless, believe him, trust him, even without them. What is that? That's very simple. This is taka amazing. By Navi, what does that say in the Navi in Parshas Re'eh? It says that if someone is coming saying that he's saying a Nevuah, there are 2 prerequisites that we learn from the Rambam. First of all, he has to be someone worthy of Nevuah, which means both the Midos and Moichen, he has to be a Muslim, a person that is always in charge of his Yetzer, a person who's humble, all the good Midas, a person who's Shalom in his Chabad, and that's not enough. And then he has to come with the Oisen Omoitis. And if he doesn't come and perform a miracle, which is predicting the future and exactly what he said will happen, then we're not supposed to listen to him. Right? Right. And without it, where you don't listen to it. But when a Parsha Shoiftim, when the Torah they're speaking about Chachamim, a Chacham Taka has to be someone who's Muslim Midas. That Midah we have to have. A Chacham doesn't have to prove himself by performing miracles. What state in Parsha Shoiftim, Al Pi HaTorah Asher Yerucha. And so the question is, how do we know that this person is a Chacham? So just to quote the words of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Chasidim velan allein verstehen. It's amazing. Without a Ois or a Moifis. When someone is coming saying that I'm a greater Navi, he has to prove it. When a person is coming as a Chacham, which is also a level, it's just a lower level, no proof is needed. You go explain that. And that's the way Jewish history was. It's amazing. And people knew whether you're going to listen to him or not. Yeah. Yes. That's why we say Ashikachanu says of Tzivanu. And how do they become a Chacham, David? They didn't have to perform something that's only in the realm of God, which is knowing the future. They didn't need to do that. So how did we even know their Chachamim? Worked. It worked like the Frierdiker Rebbe said that why is it that the whole Klal Yisrael accepted the Mishnah Berurah? Because he had Avos Yisrael and it just worked. I heard that Rebbe also spoke about the Pnei Yeshua. The Pnei Yeshua wrote many Svarim. But the level of Ruach HaKodesh that is in the Pnei Yeshua, the emes there is much deeper, and people know it. We know it. We don't need Oisu Moifus. You can even have from the same person many Svarim. One everyone knows of, the other ones you never heard of. We know that Das is Torah. Crazy. We don't even need a proof. You look at a Yid, you look at his face. I don't know. We know the Chassid Yid. They say, and it was each of the Masmid never looked in a mirror in his life. Each of the Masmid needed to make a passport, so they took a picture. He never saw himself, so some Chacham decided to show him his picture. So they showed him his. And they says, "Was sagst du? What do you say about such a person?" He looks. He says, "This is a Chassidish Yid." How great is that? Oh, weiter. Now says the Gemara. Let's go back to Rab Tarfon. Let's go back to Rab Tarfon. Now what? That he should have died because he went to lay down when he said the Shema. Ordained the Tamar regarding that which we learned. Where? In Bavli in Eiduvin Daf Yud Gimel. Regarding the question, should we follow Beishamai? Should we follow Beisilol? That Mishiyatzas Baskoil, that only after the Baskol came out and said that what, Chevra, that halacha Beisilol, only then, afterwards, did this story with Rab Tarfon happen. And since there was a Baskoil, he shouldn't have laid down. Aval actually Yotzas Baskoil, prior to the Baskoil, or let me say like this, regarding other arguments, Kol Haroitzel Hachman Alatzmai. So now it depends. Can you be Machman? It depends. If you're being Machman to the point, now let's add something that we learned in the Bavli. That you're always going to be Machman in a case where it's incompatible. There are many shaylas we're going like this and like that, kechumra, it's incompatible. That is where we say it's a shayta. You're a fool. If you want to be lenient on the other hand, lenient would be, I'm going to daven mincha after plaga mincha, because it's not dark yet. But now, I'm going to go back to Rabbi Yehuda. But in one scenario, you can't paskin in an incompatible way, then that's called a rush. Ella, before the Baskol, you could have chosen like Beishamai. Rab Tarfon would not have been so reprimanded. But that was because there wasn't yet a Baskol. Again, that's what we meant. All of the above is only actually Yotz's Baskol. Right. And now the kasha is, listen, and now we can say, so before we go weiter in the Gemara, right, before we go to the Baskoil, I just want to read the Charedim, because the Charedim is asking a kasha that how can you say that? How do you reconcile that with Bava Metzia Daf Nun Tes, the Tanur Shalach Noi, where we say that the Rabbi Shua says that we are not mashgiach b'Baskoil? Like it's a contradiction, right? Right. Let's read inside the Charedim. Mishiyatzas Baskol men Hashemayim, the halacha Beisilol Kidol Kamon, Aval Achlos Baskol, v'hoyim Mesupakim Kamas Man I halacha Kibishamay, Bishum the Mechadei Tveim, and many the Talmud Beishamay were sharper. But David Beisilol, even though Beisilol was an Abim, they had such an option. Asks the Charedim v'hod Omer Rabbi Yeshua Gabatana Shalach Noi, the Perek Azov Babli, Bavatzid Afnun Tez, that Ein Mashgichim Baskol, and v'Kaimelon like Rabbi Yeshua. Answers the Charedim the first white line, the Dafka Hasim Shahoya Baskol Neged Horoi. If the Baskol is negative Roiv, even though he just said right now that Beisilol was Roiv, the Charedim just said Beisilol was Roiv. But Beishamai were sharper. So what? Okay, I'll just leave this Charedim over. Now, what's the Baskol back in the Gemara? Tani, we learned that Yotzas Baskol va'amra Elo va'elo divrei elikim chayim. Aval alocha ki divrei Beisilol. Then it's as Hasidus always quotes the pasuk, Dvar Havayas U'alach. That's what we are mentioning. No, it's Elikim is from the Mishtal Shalus. And Elu Be'elu, how can it be Elu Be'elu Chaim? Because in every Oilam, if you're living in Chesed Atzilus, Beisilol is right. If you're living in Gevura, Beishamai is right. Be'emes. What is this world connected to? This world is connected to the highest level. Dvar Havayim. And that is what the Baskol was Megala. And Heichlan Yotzas Baskol, where did they hear it? You would think Azab Baskol has to be heard in a lofty place. No, the Baskol was not heard in Yerushalmi. The Baskol was not heard in the Beis Hamikdash. Rabbi Omar b'Shem Rabbi Yechanan, only Biyavna Yotzas Baskol. When we were exiled, this is all Nekudah. And not Nevuah. Baskol is lower than Nevuah. It's an echo of Nevuah. It's the daughter of a voice. That dafka here, do we hear the highest level, the ultimate desire, Ratzin, the halach is the Ratzin of Hashem. Ratzin, we learn, is higher than Chacham. When were we worthy of hearing the will of God outside Yerushalmi? Dafka in the lower level. In Golus, in Divrei Seifrim. Beautiful. Not Divrei Nevi'im. Nevi'im were in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, now we have to run. Says the Mishnah. Okay, now Atkan we learned about Shema itself. Now we're going to learn about the Birchas Kriya Shema. Bas Shachar, in the morning, how many brachas do we make? Shtayim lefaneha, says the Pnei Moshe, Yoitzer Oiren Ahava, right? Ava Soilam, in our Nusach. Va'achas lachrea emes v'yatz. Turning to the Yud Beis Amud Beis. And Duba Erev, so you have a total of 3. At night, what do? We say Shtayim Lefaneha. What's the Shtayim Lefaneha, guys? Marev Aravim and Avas Oilam. I'm reading inside the Pnei Moshe. Shtayim Lachrea, which is what? Emes ve'emuna, not emes v'yatz. Let's go to our version. And Hashkivenu. On that, the Mishnah says, Achas Arucha va'achas Ketzara. Says the Achareidim, there's a machlekes how to learn Pshat. They're both referring to the Shtayim La'achareha, because Emes Ve'emuna relatively is long, Hashkivenu relatively is short. And now the Mishnah adds another general rule regarding brachas, that Makim Sh'amru Laharech, whenever the Chachamim, they were the ones that they were koiveya the nusach of the bracha. If they have a lengthy a blessing, Ein Rishoi Lekatzer, right? If they made it Lekatzer, Ein Rishoi Laharech. If a bracha has a chasima, that means it doesn't only open with the Baruch Hashem, but it concludes with the Baruch Hashem, then Ein Rishoi Shaloi Lach. If they made it, they formulated the bracha like Birchas Hanahen, most of them, right? That Shaloi Lachtoim, right? There's only once, you only say once Hashem and Malchus, Ein Rishoi Lachtoim. And as we have a statement, we learned this in the Babli, that Kol Hameshana Mimbat Beya Shotavo Chachamim Einoi Elo Toya. So you have to leave it exactly the way it is. And now says the Gemara like this. These words we'll have to learn Pshat the Gemara. Rab Simin, in the name of Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman, says, he's trying to understand why do we have exactly these numbers of brachas, since it says, Al Shei, Yeshua, V'hagisa boy, v'hagisa means you should harve it in it, yoimam v'layla. What does it mean in our Gemara? Shetehei hagoyas hayoim v'halayla shavin. That the recitation of the Shema and at day and at night should be equal. How does it make it equal? Actually, the Mishnah makes it unequal, because the Mishnah is telling you, which is what we do, that at night, how many brachas do we have? 4. 2 before, 2 in the morning. How many brachas do we have? 3. 2 before, 1 afterwards. How is it equal? So the Charedim, it says like this, and they have to. He brings from a tshuva of the Rashba. The Rashba writes, I'm just going to say it by heart because it's getting a little bit late, that there were people that at night did not say the third parsha. They did not say parsha sitzes. So we're going to count every clause in the Shema as number 1. Oy bazoi. In the morning, you have how many brachas? 3 brachas. But Shema has how many shtiklach? 3. 6. The reason why at night they made 2 brachas afterwards, 4, is because they also wanted to come to the 6. Because since they did not say, this version did not say Vayomer, they didn't say the full Vayomer. You have to read inside. They said that they opened it up. So then Shema is only 2. If Agisa Vayomer Valayla means that the saying of the words of Shema by day and by night should be the same. It's not the same. So they resolved it by adding another bracha at night. That's one way of learning Pshat over here. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, and he's not addressing about the inconsistency of why 3 in the morning and 4 at night. He's just addressing of the total of 7. Why do we have 7 birchos kriya Shema? Al Shem Sheva Bayoim Iladaticha Al Mishpatei Tzidkecha. You know, it's 7 times each day we will praise Hashem. We want to have a total of 7. Okay, 7 by us is a completion, the full midas. Rab Nachman b'Shem Rav Mani, Chol Hamakayim Sheva Bayim Iladaticha. Now he's making a bigger link. The pshat of Hegisa Bayom V'Layla, guys, means learning Torah. That's the pshat. Eloma, since reciting of the Shema, as we learned in yesterday's daf, there's a component of it that's Torah. And by the way, it can even be called like Torah Shabbat Peh. Right? That's what we said. Saying Shema Bisman is not like learning a Mishnah. So you can fulfill the Hegisa Bayom V'Layla by only saying the Shema. What are you talking about? God says, heart of the Torah, learn Torah day and night. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to say the Shema and B'yoytza, al derech, the bar mitzvah maimah, what? You're going to put on tefillin. How is that like that? Because you're going to say the birchos of Shema. And when you say the Sheva Bayoim Iladaticha, when you say Shema with the brachas, then it's taka like you learn Torah by day and by night. Why? Now we're going to learn about brachas. Because the goal is to be connected with God. The kavanah is to be connected with godliness. The kavanah is to bring godliness down onto the world. And when you say Shema dafke with brachas, when you say the birchai Shema, then you can experience the Mesiras Nefesh, and you experience the Ahava, and you have the Emes Kabbalah soil. Then it's taka like you're learning Torah by day and by night. And as the Gemara continues, now this version, Shtei Parshas, doesn't fit. So we're going to go with the Hagos Hagra on the side that says, and how the Charedim explains the Kash of the Gemara, that the Gemara is saying like this. Meila, I'm reading inside 3 lines under the under the widest lines in the Charedim. Meila Parshas Tzitzis. Why do we say it every day? Because there's Yitzias Mitzrayim. There's Yitzias Mitzrayim. But why do we say the other 2? Now, people, okay, the Gemara is going to answer. I mean, there's so many ways of learning this. Yeah, because it says in both of those 2, B'shach b'chov kumech. Okay, Rab Levi v'Rab Simon. Rab Simon Amar b'pnei shekasuv b'hem. Tzitzis, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Yitzias Mitzrayim you have to mention every day. The other v'hafta and v'hoyim shumaya b'shekasuv b'hem shchiva v'kima. In both parshas. So that's why we say it. Rab Levi Amar, I'll tell you why. And that only goes with the gears of the Gra. In other words, if the Gemara is only asking why on the 2 parshas they won't fit, why do we say these parshas? So says Rab Levi, because the 10 commandments, so to say, commandments, the 10 sayings are included in the Shema. How do you have that? Oh, if you remember in Brachas we learned, I think, or in Psachim, that there were times that people actually said Aseres HaDibros, they actually said it, right? And I think in the Beis HaMikdash they kept on saying it. Where was that, guys? That was in Brachas or Psachim. Then he is.
Yakir needs to remember it, but I think it was
Brachas. Yakir, can you tell me what daf that was in? Hello, L'chaim. It's just a coffee. It's not you. It's a lack of coffee. Oh, so let's go through the Seder. We do. That's what we do. What's that? That's not. That's what we're talking about. No. We learned it before in Yerushalmi. Krishma Shalmit is a whole new thing. It's a whole different thing. If you daven might have early, then you should say, well, that's a question. No, not so simple. The bottom line will be, even though I just said you can't do tarta the sasri, you cannot do tarta. There's one shita that holds, Benegeh Rabbi Yehuda and Bavli, I think Daf Chav Zayin, that you can at the same day daven mincha late, and then say, you know what? I'm going to follow Rabbi Yehuda. It's already dark. And based on that is where you have many shuls that they daven might have early. And then, no, Shema is not good. Shema we learned you have to have Tzei Chav.
I think it's Brachas Yud Beis.
Brachas Yud Beis. But anyways, Mike. So let's go. We're going in that Seder. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. And you see the emphasis. In other words, Hashem is Elokecha. But here you have Bayonechi, you have Anoichi, Hashem Elokecha. Here you only have Hashem Elokeinu. But you should know that Shem Havaya, Chassidus says, there's really 3 levels to Shem Havaya. And the highest level is Takanoichi. Anoichi. And then you have the Ein Sof. And then you have the general spheres of Atzilus. The spheres of Atzilus is how Hashem goes into Elokecha. When it says in the 2nd commandment, the 2nd Dibra, Lo Yelocha Elohim Acherim Al Panoi, that's the meaning of Havaya Echad. Havaya Echad means that there is no power other than God. Beautiful, huh? Let's go to the next. So why is it, right, we learned this in the Rambam, this is a Tosefta and Soita, why is it that when a person has to take an oath, talk about when you have to take an oath in the name of God. Why do you have to take an oath in the name of God? Real, when you have to take an oath, we're Shaveh B'Shem Hashem. Why? Because that's an indication of the love we have to God. When I want to, like, lahavdil, says, I swear my mother is this. Why are they doing it? Because they love their mother. When a person wants to authenticate their word, they link it to that which they hold the most dear. The reason why the negative, is because it's the opposite of loving God. Loving God is you are evoking God for the emes. That's a manifestation of ahavas Hashem. That's the most dearest thing to you. In the name of God, I'm swearing. If a person does it lashav, it's the greatest anti. That means they have no love. They have no love. They have no respect. They have no care. Oh. So what's happening amazing is that what's written in the Aseret Adibris in the negative, like lo yia Elohim acherim, in the Shmat's written in the positive. Hashem echad. Lo yisisa. What's the positive? V'yahavtas Hashem alikecha. Man dirachim malka. One who has rachem. Rachem here doesn't mean rachmanis. It means one who loves the king. Lo ylishtaba b'shmei u'meshakir. Will not swear falsely in his name. Let's go to the next. What's the next commandment? Shabbos. Zocher Hashem Shabbos lekachoy. Where do we have that? So again, we're going with the gears of the Gra. We're explaining the entirety of the Shema. Leman tiskiru. Leman tiskiru. Leman tiskiru was called mitzvahs Hashem. Where does that verses does? So before we learned about the tchelas, about saying Shema, no, he's saying that Shabbos is all the mitzvahs. Indeed, Rabbi Yoimer, they were quoting a brayse. Zu mitzvah Shabbos, when it says leman tiskiru, the way you have to say the Zion, that everyone should get nervous and your neighbors. Zu mitzvah Shabbos. Shehishkula keneged kol mitzvah yisrael shel Torah. Where do we have that? How do you know that? Because it says, according to pasuk in Nehemiah, the Shabbos kachiko hoydayto lahem. And in the Shabbos, or mitzvahs v'chukim v'soyrat tzivisa. So we're teaching the pasuk in Nehemiah that in the Shabbos you have mitzvahs and you have chukim and you have Torah, and all of that is in Shabbos. So that's the Laman, that's the Laman Tiskiru. So now let's go read the top line of Daf Yud Gimel. Nehemiah. This is explaining you the smichos in Nehemiah. Shehi Shabbos shkol keneged mitzvah yisrael shel Torah. So that's the 4, and God willing, the next 6 to be continued. How great is that? Nachamal. The Daf Yud base is very controversial. Chabad.org is going out of their minds because until the Ois V'Hadar, no one had Daf. People had another way of quoting it. I'm just insisting that now that we have this and we have the art scroll, it's going to become that way. No one quoted Yerushalmi by Daf. People that are learned, when they hear me, they're commenting. There's no Daf in Yerushalmi. There's like 80 versions of the Yerushalmi. They call it halacha. Which halacha you up to? Perek and halacha. So halacha aleph goes for here 8 dafim, but it's I'm telling them that this is our generation. We're giving daf. Dafim started never. Now we're starting the. No. Every Gemara had dafim, but everyone had such different dafim that there's no consistency, which made it another reason why no one learned it. You can't quote. Like here, Shabbos, we said, a bracha is daf yud beis. Everyone knows that. By Yerushalmi, it was never that way. Let's see what's going to happen.